One of the great things about tonight, obviously a lot of the inductees and people have talked about are all the pockets of alumni, representatives from teams that are here in the back. You have the baseball table, here you have the softball table. But now we're going to talk a little bit about men's basketball and inducting our first men's basketball player in Sadot Williams. And before I introduce Ivan Lewis to talk about Sadot, one other thing that I want to mention, before Midnight Madness tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, is we're having our first alumni basketball game. We invite everybody to come out and watch these guys and a lot of women's players that are going to play. Probably embarrass themselves a little bit, but have a good time and start the evening and really set the stage, hopefully for a lot of fun tomorrow night. With that being said, it is my pleasure to introduce one of our alums and our current head men's basketball coach, Ivan Lewis.
Start off by congratulating the rest of the inductees. A huge accomplishment for you all. Let me explain why this night is very special for me. I began my playing career, or Sadot and I began our playing career together in the fall of 2002. Sadot, a redshirt freshman, so he had spent the year at Felician already, taking classes, practicing and working out with the team. Myself, I was a JUCO transfer from a 2-year school in upstate New York. And before I go on a little bit further, let me give you some insight into recruiting. When you're a JUCO transfer, you're really trying to get it right. You only have 2 more years to play, so you really don't have time to be battling for a position. And you kind of want your role to be defined as you come in. Now, I'm not quite sure what Jacobs told Sadot the year before on his recruiting during his recruiting process. But during mine, I was giving as close as a guarantee to start as a head coach can give a recruit. So I signed on to play for Felician and Coach Jacobs. And I would say I didn't complete a full day before hearing these tall tales about a Sadot Williams that I was not informed of on my recruiting visit. Now, when I'm hearing these tales about Sadot, I'm first hoping that he is a 6'7", 6'8" center or forward. But, you know, I'm starting to become confused because as I'm hearing these tales in the description of Sadot, they're telling me that he scores a bunch of points, shoots the ball a lot, and in fact he's a guard. And I was in fact a guard coming in that year as well. And again, I was not informed of Sadot being on the roster. I in fact watched film of the previous year's team, and Sadot was not on that film. So when I'm hearing these tales, I'm a little confused, I would say, because, you know, I'm believing I'm the guy that was brought in to do all the shooting and scoring. Sadot and I, you know, our first interaction, I don't know if he remembers this, but it was in practice, and it was probably after a drill that I scored on him on, and we got into an argument or a heated debate about who was not going to start that year. I strongly believed he wasn't, and he believed that I wasn't going to, because obviously the both of us couldn't start. Well, Sadot and I ended up starting together, sharing the backcourt that first year with our point guard, Bilal Rogers. And the year was a struggle for shots, a struggle for points. Sadot liked the ball in his hands, and I liked the ball in my hands as well. So we struggled through the year, and we really didn't give much effort to get to know each other throughout the season. But throughout that whole year, I would notice Sadot's approach to not only games, but practice, workouts. He had this undeniable determination. Every workout, every practice, every game. It was like he never had a day off. And I always wondered where that came from, because me, myself, I kind of struggled, with that consistency of my work ethic. So, even though we had our differences and we each struggled and had to adapt to taking much less shots than we had the year before, appreciation of the way Sadot worked definitely grew throughout the year. And I really can't tell you when it was that our relationship changed, but before the summer even hit, me going into my senior year and Sadot going into his sophomore year, we became really good friends. And me being a little further away from home, Sadot living, basically down the street, coming from Newark, Sadot began to take me home. Actually, we would go pretty much every weekend on shopping excursions, buying 3 or 4X jerseys, throwback jerseys that we'd wear. We would call ourselves getting dressed up in these 3X, 4X throwback jerseys that cost about $100 a piece. So, we would go back to, his neighborhood, and to say that I was nervous going into Newark for the first time is not, it's to say the least. And many of you know, Newark is riddled with, violence, gang violence, drugs. Definitely a hard place for an individual or a young man, or particularly a young black male, to be raised. So going back home with Sadot, I kind of understood where that determination came from. Having to face the obstacles that he did day in and day out growing up in Newark, in the Newark-Irvington area. I quickly understood why he was so tough, mentally tough, physically tough, and where that approach came from, where that determination came from. So I was smart. I kind of aligned myself with Sadot, knowing that following him, even though he was a younger guy, following him was the smart thing to do. Following him, I knew that I was going to be all right, because that was the attitude Sadot had every day. Nothing was too tough for him. Things were going to be all right. He probably doesn't know this, but he helped me get through my 2 years at Felician. Whenever I struggled, whenever I had those days where I almost wanted to give up, I would always look over to him, and I would purposely align myself opposite of Sadot. Sprints, the weight room. I would align myself opposite of Sadot just to make sure that I kept pace with him. Because if I knew if I was a step or two behind him, I was going to be all right. So Sadot, it's amazing what you have accomplished. The obstacles that that a young man like you has to go through as he, as he's raised in Newark. And it's just a tremendous accomplishment for you to achieve this award tonight. So at this time, I would like to ask Dr. Frisco up and Sadot.
Sadot Williams, I'd like to formally induct you into the Felician University Athletic Hall of Fame. Congratulations.